The 21st Amendment, how America fixed its biggest mistake.
What if the government banned coffee tomorrow? Or pizza? Or social media? Sounds crazy, right?
Well, in 1920, the United States government did something just as dramatic. It banned alcohol nationwide. Just 13 years later, it did something that had never been done before in American history. It completely erased the alcohol ban from the Constitution. This is the story of the 21st Amendment, the only constitutional amendment ever to repeal another, and how America learned a hard lesson about the limits of government control over personal freedom. To understand why this happened, a look at what made the 18th Amendment, which took effect on January 16, 1920, so different from every other constitutional amendment is needed. While the Bill of Rights restricted government power, and other amendments expanded voting rights or made technical changes to government organization, the 18th Amendment did something unprecedented. It restricted individual liberty rather than protecting it. The Bill of Rights is principally a restriction on government. Constitutional amendments have generally served to expand and protect voting rights or make technical changes in government organization. The only exception to these uses was the 16th Amendment, which authorized the income tax and vastly expanded government authority. The 18th Amendment went further. It was the only constitutional amendment at odds with the unalienable rights outlined in the Declaration of Independence and contrary to the natural inclination of humanity for freedom. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. The 18th Amendment had been the product of 178 years of efforts to ban alcohol in the United States that started with a ban in Georgia in 1742. After nearly 2 centuries of trying, temperance advocates finally achieved their goal. Their victory would last a mere 13 years. The ban on alcohol, called Prohibition, created massive problems immediately. Crime exploded across America as criminals took over the alcohol business. Many famous gangsters made millions of dollars from bootlegging. Al Capone became the most famous gangster, controlling Chicago's South Side with his boss, Johnny Torrio. The outfit under Capone, with Torrio as his right-hand man, ran bootlegging, brothels, and illegal gambling in the Windy City's downtown and South Side. George Bugs Moran, a notorious American gangster born in Minnesota in 1891, rose to prominence during the Prohibition era, also in Chicago. Rival gangs led by Capone and Moran turned the Chicago streets into a virtual war zone with their gangland clashes. Dutch Schultz ran bootlegging and other rackets in New York City, advancing from burglaries to bootlegging, breweries and speakeasies. These criminal activities during Prohibition made Schultz incredibly wealthy. Charles "Lucky" Luciano started his bootlegging operation in New York with financing from mentor Arnold Rothstein. By the mid-1920s, Luciano was making millions in illegal profits. He would become nationally known as the father of modern organized crime for organizing New York's 5 families and operating agreements with mobsters throughout the country. The violence was staggering. By 1926, more than 12,000 murders were taking place every year across America. This massive increase in organized crime forced the government to create new police forces to fight them, but the criminals often stayed one step ahead. The government couldn't enforce the alcohol ban across the whole country. Regular people broke the law every day by drinking alcohol. When people see that laws can't be enforced, they lose respect for all law. The 18th Amendment's failure demonstrates the results of government attempting to impose laws contrary to human nature. Government loses its legitimacy, and general lawlessness results. Prohibition also created opportunity and atmosphere for massive corruption in government at all levels. Police, judges, and politicians took bribes to ignore bootlegging and other criminal operations. Prohibition went against fundamental American values. America was founded on the idea that people should be free. The 18th Amendment was the only time the Constitution took away people's freedom instead of protecting it. This went against everything America stood for. As the problems mounted, a movement began to get rid of Prohibition. Pauline Sabin, who had originally supported Prohibition, changed her mind in 1929. She started a group called the Women's Organization for National Prohibition Reform to convince people to end Prohibition. people started electing politicians pledged to ending Prohibition. Prior to the 18th Amendment, states that had banned alcohol were known as dry states, and those allowing alcohol were known as wet. After Prohibition went into effect, the term wet described those supporting repeal. The movement gained enough momentum that Congress finally acted. Wisconsin Senator John Blaine sponsored the law to repeal Prohibition, and Illinois Representative Henry T. Rainey introduced it in the House of Representatives. The law was called the Blaine Act. On February 20, 1933, Congress voted decisively. The Senate passed the Blaine Act by 69 to 27 votes, and the House passed it by 294 to 126. The text Congress sent to the states was simple. Section 1 stated, "The 18th Article of Amendment to the Constitution of the United States is hereby repealed." Section 2 prohibited the transportation or importation of intoxicating liquors into states in violation of their laws. Section 3 required ratification by conventions in the several states within 7 years. Congress made an unprecedented decision about how this amendment would be ratified. Instead of using state legislatures like every other amendment, they required special state conventions. This had never been done before in American history. Why did Congress make this unusual choice? There were several reasons. Even though most Americans wanted to end Prohibition by 1933, the organized groups that had pushed for the alcohol ban were still powerful in state governments. These temperance groups could pressure politicians to vote against repeal. Many state legislators were afraid to vote on such a controversial topic because if they voted the wrong way, the temperance groups would organize against them. Congress decided to leave legislators with their eyes on re-election out of the process and off the hook by letting specially elected delegates to state conventions make this decision. Congress believed that people elected specifically to vote on this one issue would better represent what most Americans wanted, rather than what organized pressure groups wanted. The Constitution's Article 5 provides for 2 methods for state ratification of amendments submitted by Congress. One is by the votes of the state legislatures, used for all other 26 amendments. The other method is by state conventions with convention delegates chosen for the single purpose of considering the proposed amendment. Congress chose the convention method to accurately reflect the will of the people. The strategy worked. The states approved the 21st Amendment in only 288 days. With the ratifications of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Utah on December 5, 1933, the 21st Amendment became effective, ending Prohibition. The 21st Amendment contained 4 elements that made it unusual in the Constitution. 3 are unique, and the 4th is rare. First, it is the only amendment to repeal another. By 1933, the Constitution had been amended 20 times. Some amendments had modified or extended prior amendments. The 14th Amendment, for example, extended most of the Bill of Rights to the states. In repealing the 18th Amendment, the 21st became the only amendment to completely cancel another. Second, it is the only amendment ratified by state conventions rather than state legislatures. Third, it is the only amendment to grant specific authority to the states. While the 10th Amendment provides reservation of authority to the states, only the 21st specifically grants power to the states. Section 2 provides broad state authority to regulate intoxicating liquors. In many instances, this has been found to override the authority granted to Congress by the Commerce Clause. Fourth, it is one of only 2 amendments to regulate private conduct. The 13th Amendment prohibits an individual from enslaving another. The 21st prohibits someone from bringing alcohol into a state while disobeying its liquor laws. These are the only constitutional provisions to regulate private conduct. As constitutional scholar Lawrence Tribe put it, there are 2 ways, and only 2 ways, in which an ordinary private citizen can violate the United States Constitution. One is to enslave someone, a suitably hellish act. The other is to bring a bottle of beer, wine, or bourbon into a state in violation of its beverage control laws. The word bootlegging has an interesting history that predates Prohibition. The term originated in the 1880s from the practice of concealing liquor flasks in boot tops during illegal trades with Native Americans. During Prohibition, The term bootlegging became popular when thousands of city dwellers sold liquor from flasks they kept in their bootlegs. People literally hid bottles of alcohol in their boots to smuggle and sell it illegally. The name made perfect sense. People were legging illegal booze in their boots.
The Prohibition experiment demonstrates that people ultimately will not obey laws that go against human nature, and the result is general lawlessness. The alcohol ban created more problems than it solved. The quick repeal proved that the Constitution should protect people's freedom, not take it away. The 18th and 21st Amendments stand as a lesson about the limits of government when the means employed are inconsistent with the general human desire to be free from government interference. This is the only time that a constitutional amendment was completely repealed, and it happened because people realized that restricting freedom was un-American and simply didn't work. The 21st Amendment remains a powerful reminder that in America, the Constitution exists to protect individual liberty, not to restrict it. When government oversteps those boundaries, the people have the power to correct course. Like this video and subscribe to this channel, and join the ongoing work to combat constitutional illiteracy.